of the Christian County Library Board of Trustees. The consent agenda. I would like to pull the minutes of the Tuesday, August 27th, 2024 open meeting out of the consent agenda. Is there anything else anybody else would like to pull from the consent agenda? Okay. Is there a motion to pass the consent agenda without the minutes of the Tuesday, August 27th, 2024 open meeting?
May I ask a question first?
Yeah.
I'm confused. If we pull part of the minutes from the consent agenda because of our concern about whether or not we have violated the sunshine laws, I do not see how we could pass the minutes of the meeting at all because the meeting continued on that false assumption.
Yeah, I was going to pull the entire minutes.
Okay, I would move that we would need to, at this point, remove the entire minutes.
Okay, is there a second? I will second. Is there any discussion? Okay, we're moving to a vote. Trustee Alexander?
Aye.
Trustee Brazil?
I'm sorry, is this just to pull it out and discuss it, or this is to remove the minutes from the record?
No, to pull it,
I couldn't.
well, I'm just moving the minutes out. We're passing the consent agenda without the minutes
I
from
see,
the
okay,
Tuesday
okay.
meeting. So I'll go again. Trustee Alexander?
Aye.
Trustee Brazil?
Nay.
Trustee Garrity?
I think that's a nay.
Okay. Trustee Hagan?
Aye.
And I'll break the tie with an aye. So we'll pass the consent agenda without the minutes of the Tuesday open meeting. Now, the minutes of the Tuesday, August 27th open meeting, those need to be passed. Janice, are you, what you said earlier is that?
I don't see how I would have to move not to accept the minutes of the Tuesday 27th meeting of any of the meeting because if we made a mistake at the beginning, we made a mistake throughout the whole meeting. So I would move not to accept the minutes of the meeting at all.
Okay. Is there a second? I will second. Any discussion on this?
Yeah, I think we need to, as the meeting minutes are a historical record of what happened, we need to accept them.
I agree with John. Yeah, the event happened. We can certainly consider portions of it, of the implications of that event. I think that's what we handled in the special meeting. But they are a legal record of what occurred.
So we should accept them.
Well, then we have to vote. Trustee Alexander?
I'm sorry, point of order, can you repeat?
Yes, we are yes, to clarify, Janice has made a motion and it has been seconded to not accept the minutes of the Tuesday, August 27th, 2024 open meeting. So Trustee Alexander.
Well, wait, we
Yes.
still get to discuss this.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I do respect John's point that the minutes do need to exist for the sake of record. I do not agree with the content because I'm afraid we made a mistake, but I do think it needs to be, how do you allow the records to be a historical record and content without accepting the decisions made during the meeting?
That goes beyond my.
Okay, I would move that we accept the records of the August 27th meeting for historical and recorded purposes, but not to accept the outcome that is in question of the vote during that meeting or the remainder of the meeting that was based and followed through from the possibly illegal vote that we took.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? Okay, so my concern is that if we, and maybe maybe Janice, the way that you phrased it will work, but if there is any illegalities that happened in the last meeting based off of violation of sunshine law or the bylaws, then I would not want those minutes to be able to be used for any library business as justification for anything that happened in that meeting. So
So the movement would be to need to,
I would like to, can I make a motion? Am I allowed
You
to?
can.
All right, thank you.
You've got
Claire.
motions
Thank you.
on the floor.
Yeah, so you
Okay.
I
have
need to
to,
deal with one
Okay.
motion at a time and dispense with it, then go to
Thank you.
John's motion.
Okay,
so Janice replaced her motion and hers was to not accept, to keep it as a historic record, but to
not accept the outcome of the election.
Of the election specifically or of everything?
or of the resulting decisions made during the meeting following our possible violation of the sunshine laws with that vote.
So basically
That's
anything that
like-
happened after the election.
Correct.
If I may make a recommendation,
Yes, sir.
it is that I agree with John. I think the minutes should be voted on as they are. Janice can state her objection, but that's not a motion.
Okay,
That's her objection in the
Okay.
discussion of the motion to approve.
Thank you for the clarity.
thank you.
And
Okay.
I think that John's comment
Wait.
was that whether or not there's a factual accuracy of the motion is different than your objection, whether it's legal or not.
Yeah.
It's two separate things.
That's correct.
So then I can remove my motion?
That would be a good
I
idea.
remove my motion.
Okay,
So right now, there's no motion on the table.
I think John made a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as they are.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion, any more on this? Okay, trustee Alexander.
Aye.
Trustee Brazil.
Aye.
Trustee Garrity.
Aye.
Trustee Hagan.
Nay.
All right, so moving on to administrative highlights, Director's Creativity Showcase.
I've asked our Nixa branch manager, Brandon Jason, to present about an exhibit that we've had the last few years at the Nixa branch.
Excuse me. The Christian County Library has partnered with CC Links, a local organization, every year since 2021 to host the Director's Creativity Showcase. This is a program by the Missouri Mental Health Foundation. Could you flip to the next slide, please? So these three organizations here have partnered for 4 years now. Next slide. So just to give some context, the Missouri Department of Mental Health has worked to provide public education, awareness, and stigma reduction services for mental health in the state of Missouri. Their traveling showcase is an art contest for those utilizing the Department of Mental Health services. So artists submit their work into specific categories based on the types of services they receive. So these include mental illness, substance use disorder, developmental disability, and then there's kind of a catch-all category for crafts and photography submissions from all services. Next slide, please, Tori. So CC Links, to give some context to them, is a wonderful local organization. They have helped empower individuals with developmental disabilities in Christian County for almost 40 years now. They provide personalized plans, referrals, an OATS bus for employment transportation, and then individualized education plans or IEPs for families with young people with developmental disabilities. So they're just great. I went to their open house recently. They have a new location here in Christian County, and it's a wonderful facility. So next slide. So like I mentioned earlier, we've had 4 years of exhibits here at Christian County Library. All of the exhibits have taken place here at the Nixa branch. Excuse me, next slide please. We've had 2 local award winners, so people who are here in Christian County and receive services through the Department of Mental Health and CC Links. In 2021, next slide. In 2021, there was a first place winner in the developmental disabilities category. You can see him there. and his artwork next to him. And then in 2022, he actually placed third in the same category. And then another local artist placed first in the developmental disabilities category. So we were really excited to not only have the exhibit here, but also having some award winners and being able to celebrate them as well. And then you can just kind of progress. You can kind of see the showcase at the library in the next couple of slides, just giving some examples of the art on display from these individuals. This was photos from this year's exhibit, which was actually on display throughout last week, and now it's off to its other location in Missouri. It kind of travels, hence the name. And then, as a special note, also some of the artwork is for sale, and there actually have been at least 2 sales made while being displayed at the Nixa branch, one from last year and one from this year. So it's a really great partnership, and we get a lot of feedback from patrons who are visiting the branch, excited to see it again, and lots of people stopping to appreciate the art, and clearly at least a couple of people liking it so much that they want to own it. So it's a wonderful partnership, and we're looking forward to doing even more with CC Links in the future. So yeah.
Does the money, when the paintings and the art is purchased, does the money go to CC Links? Does it go to the individual?
It goes to the
creative?
individual.
That's right.
Yeah, so the artists themselves. Yep. Mhm.
Very cool. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Okay, per last month's meeting, we will now move into the public comment section of the meeting. Just a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak. We do have an hour allotted for this public comment section. We have 12 speakers, so we should not need the full hour. I'm going to, once again, kind of let somebody know who's on deck so that as I know all of your time is important to you. So our first speaker is Elena Keene, and Beth Holtz, you are on deck.
My name is Eilena. I just wanted to say first and foremost, thank you to our library board for restoring our free speech through the expansion of public comment. It's appreciated. I've been bringing my concerns to the board for 1.5 years now, but my first phone call to the library about a concerning book my children stumbled upon was over 6 years ago. I knew I wasn't alone in my concerns, and have requested market research to survey citizens of this county. Social media did that job for us this month, creating a sample of community opinions in reaction to stories about last month's meeting. Upon sorting through the comments, I found that roughly 75 to 80% of the comments made by unique individuals were in support of the motion about sticker labels on materials for minors. The fact is that yes, roughly 20% of Christian County residents have progressive values, and that's why these books will not be banned, censored, or removed. Let's not be dramatic. This conversation is about a sticker. Trustee Hagan misspoke last month when she said that the majority of concerns have been concerning the LGBT community. My main concern is about sexual content. Sexual content is inappropriate for a child, whether it is heterosexual or homosexual. The issue isn't the orientation or gender identity of someone. It's not my business how someone else lives their lives. The issue is the age inappropriateness of content that has been repeatedly placed in front of minors in this library with no informed consent. Trustee Tuckness also brought up the concern of stickers being stigmatizing and even alluded to wanting the library to aid a child in deceiving their parents. She stated that if someone is not out to their family and they want books that reflect who they are and to have these books, the stickers would stigmatize them and make them feel less comfortable checking out those books. We should all be concerned with this statement. Did you catch what she's saying? If a child is hiding their gender identity or sexual orientation from their parents, is it the library's job to aid the child in hiding this from their parents? I'm the parent of my children, not the library staff. But President, the real president, Echo Alexander, brought the conversation back to the bigger picture though. That the concern is about what is appropriate for minors. I have full confidence that under her leadership, this board will focus on a bigger picture. Lastly, I'm sharing with you and what I handed out pictures of book spines from the shelves of our libraries. And I want you to notice the cross on the spine of the books pictured here, along with labels for mystery, fantasy, romance, etc. Christian books are labeled in our library and have been for years with a cross or a dove. As a Christian who's been called names at these meetings the last few months, I guess maybe I should be offended that my books are labeled, but I'm not. I don't feel marginalized, stigmatized, like anyone's trying to eradicate me. I'm grateful that Christian books are labeled and easy to find. The more organized and stickered, the better. And on the flip side, some parents in this community don't want their children exposed to Christian material, and that's fine too.
Thank you.
So, can you tell me more about this vendor? It looks like we already used this vendor first.
Yes, yeah, so I didn't have time to talk about it much, but you'll see if you flip to the last couple of pages here. The first 3 pages are genre stickers that we already use in our library, so these are books sitting on our shelves in Ozark. So if you look at the last 2 pages, and the one before it, I found where we've paid a company, it's a vendor called Dimco. And from this page here, the Dimco vendor, we use these stickers from what's called the Modern Collection, and in this collection, there's actually already an existing LGBT genre sticker that for some reason, at some point, a decision was made to go ahead and purchase some of these other genre stickers, but the LGBT sticker was not purchased. I don't know why, but a decision was made at some point there, which confuses me because that's something that we've been asking for the last couple of years. And then on the last page, the sticker options, you'll see the sticker for LGBT materials. Again, that's that Dimco vendor, the same one we're using, matches the Modern Collection we use in our library. And then I just wanted to differentiate on that last page where it says like the M for mature. There's a difference between LGBT material. That's a genre. That's not a warning label like everybody said. That is not what that is. So there's a genre for LGBT material, but then the M for mature is like the sexual content, the violent content, things that you would want to be able to see as a parent. There's a sticker that says M for mature on the side, kind of like a movie label. You would say, oh, let me pick that up off the shelf before my child flips that open and looks at it and can't unsee something.
It's more age appropriate versus genre.
Yeah, exactly. And then at the bottom here where it says label that Camden County Library uses, as you know, I've filled you guys in on this, but Camden County, they actually made a custom sticker for their books. So they actually, if you guys don't like some of the other options, there are labels that you can purchase also from Dimco. They're just blank and you can customize a label and make what you want.
Nice.
Beth Holtz and Juanetta, you are
Thank you.
My name is Beth Holtz, and I'm a Christian resident in Ozark. I know last month the board made a motion to look into labeling books in the Christian County Library. I would like to thank you for listening to comments from the past 2 years and making a move to help the citizens who want to protect our children. I know there's been a big uproar about labeling books on social media since the last library board meeting. I don't understand why there is such a controversy over labeling books. If you walk through the library, you will find labeled books everywhere except for the children's area. Children's books that are intended for readers under the age of 12 are not labeled by genre like the rest of the library. Children browse the shelves and are likely to come across content that is objectionable without any clear section or sticker label. These books are also strategically placed, put on the bottom shelves, which makes it easily accessible for the younger children. We place warning labels on everything these days. We have labels on toys and children's products that provide age recommendations, safety tips, and potential hazards to protect children's safety. I think many of the books in the children's sections would qualify to have warning labels on them to protect them from harm. Once you see something, it is impossible to unsee it no matter how hard you try. So why would we not try to protect these innocent children from seeing things that they are not ready to see? I don't understand why we are trying to target children with these sexually explicit books instead of trying to protect them and keep them innocent as long as possible. The publishers of these sexually explicit books know what they are doing. They make the books enticing for kids to pick up. Sometimes the agenda of the books is hidden until you are partway through the book and then are surprised at the content that you don't want your child to see or hear. A label with a clear warning about the content would alleviate this type of situation. I would love to see crosses and doves put on the children's books where appropriate too. I'm not offended to see these in the adult fiction section of the library. Although I did like being able to go straight to the Christian fiction section of the library to find the books that I wanted to read. Now I have to walk through all of the fiction section and look for doves and crosses. Since labeling books is something that the Christian County Library is already doing, I urge you to add the children's section of the library with these labels as well. This is the most critical section of the library that needs the labels. I would like to remind the board that the motivation behind these changes we want in the children's section of the library comes out of love, not out of hate as we have been accused. We want our children protected, not targeted.
Mary Hernandez de Carl, you're up after Juanetta.
My name's Juanita,
I'm
right?
sorry.
That's okay. One of my first and favorite jobs was as a library assistant at the Pack Memorial Library in Mountain View, Missouri. As a troubled 16-year-old kid, I loved the structure, and I adored Miss Odina Reese, the head librarian. I quickly learned the Dewey Decimal System. It was awesome. Any topic that you wanted to learn could quickly be found on the shelves with the sticker on the spine easily determining its exact placement. It was a simpler time. No one was offended by identifying book content and placing books in efficient, structured order. In Miss Odina's library, everything was in order and the public was served in a non-discriminatory way. A year and a half ago, my daughter asked me to attend a library board meeting with her. She's a homeschool mom who had noticed books that were showing up in the kids and youth section, and in 2023, she made the difficult decision to stop taking her 3 kids into the library because she and others had started finding extremely sexualized and age-inappropriate books scattered randomly throughout the kids section. At first, I grumbled that I really don't have time, but everything changed the evening that I first walked in. In the seat next to me, someone opened a binder, a carefully and immaculately put together collection of BookLooks reviews and text and pictures from actual books found in the kids sections in CCL. As I looked at that binder, my heart sank. One of the pictures from a book called The Bare Naked Book was found in the Ozark Children's Nonfiction section. It had a very articulate drawing of 4 people with only bottoms covered. One of them a female with large naked breasts, and one of them was a woman who was obviously transitioning to become a man, with stitches where her breasts had been surgically removed. I was horrified. This is obvious attempted recruitment of children into transgender ideology. The next very detailed drawing was from Gender Queer, rated not for minor, by BookLooks. As a survivor of abuse at the age of 9, this book is the one that sent me over the edge. The picture graphically depicted an individual, which was obviously a minor, lying on top of a man's outstretched naked torso. The youth was putting a large erect penis in his mouth, obviously performing oral sex. Folks, this is pedophilia, pure and simple. And here's the thing, even though this book was in the Ozark graphic novel section, the ALA-based handbook for Christian County Libraries states, we support the Library Bill of Rights and the Freedom to Read statement in providing for free and open access to our materials for all age groups. Children are not restricted to particular areas of the library. Our staff does not monitor the materials that children choose. In other words, unless parents know specifically what these books are, since they are not labeled or placed for content, and can follow their kids around like a hawk and supervise, young kids could find these books and check them out easily. This is not reasonable. Parents need a system of informed consent to protect their children from harmful exposure to pornography. I look forward to December when the new board will seek solutions.
Kevin, you're up after Mary. Kevin Bright, sorry, just to be clear.
I would like to start off by saying a sincere muchas gracias to the library board for listening to the public's request for help to make the library more accessible to all by initiating the conversation on how to better identify LGBTQ content on our library shelves. I've been attending and speaking at library board meetings for over 20 years now, and this is the first time the board is making a good faith effort to listen to the concerns of the Christian County community. Contrary to the misinformation being shared online about this movement, the public outcry doesn't come from a place of hate, but out of a deep love for the children. In fact, the presence of age-inappropriate material on the shelves of the Christian County Library has brought a very diverse group of people together in support of the cause. Our group is Hispanic, white, Black, Native American, young, old, straight, gay, Christian, and Jewish. So you can only imagine my shock when at the last meeting, we were labeled as white Christian nationalists. The term white Christian nationalist is a racial slur. It is a term that is both offensive and divisive.
Yeah.
And that kind of hate has no home in Christian County. A couple of weeks ago, the library released the library card application in 3 different languages: Spanish, Russian, and Ukrainian. This is part of the ongoing effort to make everyone feel welcome at the library. This new feature is a great complement to the expansion of the bookbinding labels discussed at the last meeting. Everyone wins when books have additional bookbinding labels because the reader will have easy access to additional information about the contents of the book. As a daughter of immigrants, I know firsthand how difficult navigating a public library can be when English is not your first language, especially in these times when books have hidden themes that are not easily detected on the back cover summaries of books. The proposed LGBTQ bookbind labels are a welcome added feature among the community of immigrants in Christian County. Right now, we have an incoming population that is even more conservative than the native-born Christian County residents. According to the Pew Research Center, approximately 73% of Russians identify as Christian. 86% of Ukrainians identify as Christian. 94% of Mexicans identify as Christian. And 99.5% of Romanians identify as Christian. And that's the makeup of the influx of immigrants that are moving to this area. So implementing an LGBTQ bookbind label will give fair notice to English language learners and native English speakers. It is a reasonable accommodation that will help ensure that a child is not surprised by age-inappropriate content. Thank you.
Carissa Carson, you're up after Kevin Bray.
All right, for a couple of years now, local values and input have been dismissed from decisions concerning our county library system. It is still hard to believe, but simply put, pornography, pedophilia, and transgender books complete with photos and instructions are being placed in front of our children. This is a direct attack on our families, our culture, and the very foundation of our nation. Citizens began to expose this material and asked that it be kept from our children. We were ignored, told that nothing could be done about it, and that this material had to be allowed. The board said it could not even be labeled. Outside organizations such as the American Library Association have proved to be inconsistent with our local values. The American Library Association bylaws state, my wife already said that, they approve of this stuff and they think our children have access to each and every book in this library unsupervised. It has become apparent that there's been an intentional effort to transform the culture of our library. Trustees are placed in their positions to oversee the operation of the library as our representatives. Our commissioners have heard the voice of their constituents. As trustee positions have vacated, they have carefully interviewed and replaced 3 with individuals they found to be qualified for the position. They are representative of the voting population in our county. Trustees are attempting the process of rebuilding the trust and repairing the relationship with the taxpayers. I really appreciate everyone's willingness to serve and work towards making our library an excellent resource for our entire community. Despite what's being posted online, the name-calling and accusations of a very few dramatic and unhappy individuals, it's really strange how we've wound up here. I don't know how anybody can say this stuff's right, and I don't know how you can say that we don't have a voice on what our children are exposed to. Our rights and freedoms come from our Creator. That's our nation, that's our foundation. Our Creator says in Romans 13, 1 and 2, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power resisteth the ordinance of God. And they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. That concerns me for a lot of people. As I said before, we're not going anywhere. Our children are going to be safe, and we will not and cannot compromise on that.
Cindy Dickens, you're up after Carissa. Is this just for me or is it for everybody?
It's for the record.
Okay.
Is it just me, or is anyone else sick and tired of the dramatic performances and extreme hypocrisy? Tell me why an LGBTQ sticker can literally go anywhere else in the world, car bumpers, business storefronts, classrooms, and so on, but just not the book spine. Because there's a stigma, it marginalizes the community. I'm confused because I thought that LGBTQ group loved to shout their pride in how they identify. I've actually been undercover to local pride parades, and they hand out rainbow stickers at nearly every stand. I could have taken handfuls if I wanted to. They even have booths dedicated to giving out free LGBTQ books. Now, all of a sudden, they don't want to show their pride. But wait a second, so often, but not just limited to Pride Month, we've photographed displays throughout all branches of the Christian County Library of not only the rainbow gay pride flag, but also the bisexual flag, transgender flag, lesbian flag, non-binary flag, progress flag, asexual flag, pansexual flag, and not last but not least, the intersex pride flag. Okay, now tell me why there's no stigma here on these displays of flags and books that are encouraged for checkout, but a small book binding sticker is somehow stigmatizing. I don't see the outrage of other books having labels on them, just the LGBTQ books. There are already labels on books that categorize them as mystery, romance, Christian. The ALA doesn't seem to have a problem with that apparently. Again, hypocrisy at its finest. See, this is why the faux outrage is purely artificial. They don't really care about the label. What they really care about is getting to your kids in mind with a message, a grooming message that undermines our authority as parents. They want uninformed, young readers to pick up books and accept what's in it for themselves. We are clearly not book banners. No one is taking away your precious, deviant books. They're still on the shelves. If you want your kids to have them, guess what? They have a bright new shiny sticker on them for you to be able to identify them for your kids. For others, if they so choose, they can avoid them, and this is the freedom of choice.
Cindy Dickens. Emma Yancey, you are up next.
Good evening, members of the board. I would like to first thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Cindy, and I am a concerned parent. I'm here to speak on the idea of labeling books. The idea of labeling books is not about banning books or restricting access to them. It certainly isn't about banning free speech. There are labels and warnings on many things that are protected under free speech. The movie industry, for example, has a rating system as well as warnings that include things like language, nudity, sexual content, etc., etc. TV shows do the same thing as far as warnings are concerned, and sadly, even cartoons and anime must now come with these warnings. We are not asking for a separate section that would ostracize a small group of people. We are certainly not asking you to parent our children. That is not your job. That is mine. We are asking you to help protect the most vulnerable in every community, and that is all children, whether it be my child, your child, or even one of the opposition's children. These labels and warnings I spoke about help parents to make decisions. It's unrealistic. I heard someone say in the last meeting, you should read every book your kid wants to read. It's unrealistic to think that a parent can read or should read everything that their child might want to read. Instead, we depend on such labels, such as those for movies and TVs and books. We depend on those labels and warnings to a certain extent. They alert us to the possibility we might want to look further into something before allowing our child to watch or read it. It may seem silly, but let's look at a very simple example of this helping parents. If Susie wants her younger child to go to the library with a friend and that friend's parents, Susie would be able to tell her child or remind her child not to get these certain books that they don't want her to have. It would allow parents of each of those children to communicate with each other so that they know what is acceptable and which ones are not. It takes the guesswork out of Susie's friend's mom. Maybe that parent doesn't see an issue with those certain kinds of books. That's okay. We can still be friends. But it only serves to help those parents in instances like those. I do not see that what we are asking you to do is a small task. In fact, it would be a very daunting task, a very time-consuming task, but also a task that we believe would be well worth your time and your effort to protect children. Again, I want to thank you for your time and for listening to all of us tonight.
Tamara, you're up after Emma.
I'm Emma. I'm a student. I'm a sophomore at the Nixa High School, and I just want to say the library is supposed to be a place for everyone. The purpose of a library is so anyone can walk in and find something they're interested in. Restricting types of books takes away the purpose of a library. What's the purpose of the world without diversity? And what's the purpose of a school without a variety of classes? Why would someone try and take away an opportunity for someone else just because they believe it is wrong? The people who are different are already scared enough because of people singling them out and teaching their children that they are bad. It makes me so sad to see these kids hiding who they are just because of the people who have more hate in their hearts than love. It is not the library's job to teach your kids what you think is right or wrong. People have been quoting Bible verses, but it breaks my heart to hear people using the Bible in the wrong way. John 13, verse 34. A new command I give you. Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. Luke 6, verse 31. Do to others as you would have them do to you. John 4, verse 8. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. God loves all his children, no matter what gender, color, or sexuality you are. He loves you. Don't let hateful people try and tell you he does not, just because they don't agree with your beliefs. Thank you.
Jennifer Acker, you're next.
Okay, first of all, happy Banned Books Week. I just want to thank the library for a program that you guys are putting on coming up October 9th with the Child Advocacy Center called Healthy Touch for Children and Youth Workshop. I have never been to a library program that wasn't amazing, and I've heard some chatter about this, so I just wanted to say a few things. So why is this necessary? Fiscal year 2023, in the state of Missouri, there were 4,347 substantiated cases of abuse. The number 2 highest category was sexual abuse, 28.9%. The only one higher was neglect. While I have not personally been a victim of sexual abuse, I have been sexually assaulted in my life. And I would venture to guess most people in this room have been affected by sexual assault in some way or another, personally or someone you know. And that it can be a very negative, life-changing experience. In fact, our current Attorney General reports a 133% increase in requests from law enforcement to prosecute sexual assault cases just since he took office, which wasn't that long ago. And we're finally seeing boarding schools like Circle of Hope finally being closed down after kids suffering years of sexual abuse. Another very shocking, it was really shocking to me, and sad statistic is that most children are victimized by their parent or a trusted caregiver. In 2022, nationally, there were almost 500 million children reported abused. 76% of these were abused by a parent or legal guardian. I had never heard that statistic before, and it honestly doesn't surprise me, but it's very shocking and also highlights why these programs are so necessary. When I first read about this, I did a bunch of research on the Child Advocacy Center, and I'm really impressed with everything I see. Basically, if you guys don't know, they're a center where once abuse is reported, children can go to this center and have everything taken care of all at once. Law enforcement, children's division, mental health, physical health, they can get an exam, and it really helps to lessen the trauma of the child because they don't have to go from place to place to get all this taken care of in one spot. So again, thank you, library. That's really, really awesome. And before I run out of time, can tell, I'm sure, I'm very, very nervous, but I did want to quickly address this topic. It gets said a lot in here, it gets brought up, the percentage of people who are Christian in Christian County, or, percent of people who are not progressive. Well, there are people, I'm one included, that often don't come to speak because there are people in this room that have blogs simply devoted to making fun of people like me. One of them's married to the board member.
I have a question if you're open to it.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
We hear a lot in these meetings, banning books, not banning books, and so since you self-identified as celebrating Banned Books Week, I'm just curious what banned books mean to you, because I think we have a lot of different definitions of that, so I'd be curious if you're celebrating Happy Banned Books Week.
Well, I just came to talk about the sexual assault, so I'd rather not.
Okay, appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
Jennifer? And Christopher Gear, I apologize if I mispronounced that, you're up after Jennifer.
Hello, I'm Jen Acker. I've lived in Christian County for most of my life, and I'm currently raising 4 children here. They range from the ages of 19 down to 2 years old, and we are frequent patrons of the library. We are very involved in the events that the Ozark, Nixa, and even Clever branches put on, and we do visit the Sparta branch on occasion. I'd first like to speak about our librarians. I am the very definition of a helicopter parent. I watch my children closely, I'm fiercely overprotective. The youngest ones wear a backpack style leash whenever we go into public places, and my teens know I'm always right there if they need me. The Christian County Library is the one place that we frequent that is a safe space for my children, all of them. When we pull in, they get out of the car and walk in ahead of me, still within eyesight, but independently. This is the only place they're allowed this level of independence at 2 and 5. They love the gentle guidance their librarians offer throughout activities, and it's a huge blessing to see someone else pour into them and wrinkle their little brains. There has never been a single moment that my instincts indicated anything other than absolute trust with these individuals. They interact appropriately with every child I've seen in the library, and I've seen many children thrive within the programs offered, from Family Storytime Hour to the teen and adult programs. The Christian County Library couldn't find a better staff if they tried. Regarding the materials available to our family, it is my opinion that the Christian County Library has taken great strides over the years utilizing Mobius, expanding to what I hope will eventually be an infinite wealth of resources available so we can continue to learn and grow throughout the many years that we hope to be here. I don't have to agree with every book that lines the shelf. I am fully capable of simply walking past and not selecting something that doesn't align with who I am to check out. It is also not up to me to tell someone else what they or their family can or cannot read or learn about. I think it's really important to be careful with the labels that we put on things and people, and that we pay attention to the agenda driving those labels. It is up to me and my husband alone to decide what content is or is not appropriate for our family. We don't need warning labels on books with certain content. We are able to browse actual genres using the guided stickers when appropriate. It is not the librarian's job, or the director's job, or the board's job to deem what is or is not appropriate. So whose opinion are we going to use to determine what's good or bad for our own family? Our own. We will screen the content our children are absorbing. It's important to not blur the line between a public service that is paid for by all of us with forcing it to follow a certain agenda that not all of its patrons subscribe to. This is my library too. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher Gear and Haley Anderson, you are up after that.
Thanks for letting me speak. I wrote this in like 3 minutes before coming here, so hopefully I got this. I wanted to talk to you today about my concerns about selectively labeling books in Christian County Library. My understanding is that we are currently making decisions about books that are deemed LGBTQ+, with the understanding that this population only represents about 6 to 7% of the US population today. To summarize a paper written by Thomas Jefferson, there should never be a time when the majority should decide the rights of the minority. It feels like this is the case in labeling the books due to there being a minority of voices that cannot be significantly impacted compared to the voices of the majority of people that are here currently. I understand that the purpose of a book is to share ideas, put oneself in another person's experience, and being able to look outside of ourselves. I know when I read a book to my daughter every night, it is in the hopes of her developing empathy and understanding for others. This is diminished when it comes to labeling books, as it suggests that there is something inherently wrong with individuals not representing society's norm. The LGBTQ population is already 4 times more likely to attempt suicide, with one attempt every 45 seconds. Research also shows that 60% of LGBTQ plus individuals experience bullying and discrimination for being who they are. In my position as a therapist, I see everyday struggles with clients even coming out to family members due to fears of how they will be perceived and how they will be treated. That being said, I strongly disagree with the book labeling, as it is once again a way to stigmatize an already vulnerable population. Thank you.
Haley Anderson will be our last speaker for the evening.
Hello, library board members. Thank you so much for allowing the opportunity for public comment. My name is Haley Anderson, and I'm a lifelong resident of Christian County. Born and raised in Clever, Missouri. I'm an educator. I'm a book bag team member that's provided free books, hygiene items, snacks to people all across Christian County and the community. I stand before you today to discuss an issue that strikes at the very heart of our community's values: the labeling and restrictions of books, particularly those of LGBT nature in our beloved public library. The Christian County Library is a sanctuary of knowledge, a place where ideas flourish and minds are opened. It is a space where every individual, regardless of their background or identity, should feel welcomed and represented. Labeling books based on their LGBTQ plus content undermines this fundamental principle by singling out and stigmatizing these people and these specific works and the people who seek them out. It sends a message that these stories are somehow different or less worthy of being part of our shared literary landscape, further othering an already marginalized group of people. The difference between these LGBT labels and a Christian label is that the Christian group is not the other group. They are not the others in this picture. The Christian group is the majority here. They're not going to go into the library and feel singled out because they're a Christian. The difference between labeling books in the library and pride stickers and banners is the choice to be able to put that sticker where you want that sticker to go. A sticker on a library doesn't mean that the library is LGBT. It means that you're welcome to come into the library regardless of who you are. It's crucial to recognize that literature has the power, as some of these other people have mentioned, to build empathy and bridge divides. Books featuring LGBT characters and themes provide solace and validation to those who see themselves reflected in the pages. They also educate others about the rich tapestry of human experience, promoting acceptance and inclusivity, which is what our library stands for. In doing so, we honor the principles upon which libraries were founded and ensure that our community remains vibrant, inclusive, and informed. Thank you so much again for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we'll now move into old business, the RFP request for proposal process for the library software.
I provided what you asked for as far as what a sample timeline could look like. This would be if we do a full RFP, request for proposal for both the ILS software itself plus resource sharing, because those are two separate things. There are some products out there that do both, like Missouri Evergreen, but most of the time they're two separate products. So it's just an estimate of what is kind of involved in that. So I'm not sure what questions you have.
I have one.
Yes.
So far, in the past meetings, if I'm not mistaken, the discussion has been basically Mobius versus Evergreen. The cost, if my understanding is correct, the cost of the services is a valid question to help with the costs at the library, and also the fact that Mobius has been down for a few months. In doing some research, I have discovered that there are other services other than Evergreen or Mobius that can provide the various services for us, but Evergreen in particular is not compatible with our system and could possibly, and it's a concern I've raised before, that it could possibly cost a lot of time and money, changing software and inconvenience for the library staff as well as the members of the community using the library. There are other resources out there that could help contain our needs, but that are compatible with the computer system, the basic system that the Christian County patrons and the staff are familiar with, and that could reduce the cost even more because the transition would be much smoother and able to be completed in a shorter period of time. My basic concern is that we have an active system that works for us. I appreciate saving cost. The cost involved the transition and everything. So I would like to be presented with a few more options of services and how they compare with Mobius and Evergreen, and if they're that are compatible with our current system that would cause less strife for our patrons and for the library system itself.
I'm actually looking into one of those right now, sort of regardless of where this conversation goes, because of the issues with Mobius. I'm very concerned, very frustrated with the downtime of that. And there's another library that's in Mobius that I've been talking to. We've been talking and looking at alternatives. So that is something I'm exploring anyways. There's a newish product from OCLC where we do traditional interlibrary loan using OCLC software. It's more cumbersome for both staff and patrons, but they have a newish product that works. It's different than Mobius, but it kind of accomplishes the same thing in removing some of the extra steps for both patrons and staff to request materials across the country. So I'm looking at that, looking into costs and stuff, and also kind of having conversations with Mobius along the way of, if you can't get us a solid timeline of when this is going to be fully functional for us, like where's the off ramp and onto that, or can you compensate us for using this alternative temporarily until you get back fully functional? So that's something I'm exploring right now anyways. I don't have any concrete costs or specifics about what that would look like as far as implementation or anything, but it's something that is obviously an issue with Mobius itself right now. There's that and Mobius, and I'm not sure how many others there are that would be alternatives, but I can do some more exploring and see.
I would appreciate that because I've interacted with Evergreen in other counties and in their libraries. I've interacted with Mobius. I see validity to both systems, but my big concern is the cost and the downtime of transitioning from Mobius to Evergreen. I'm very disturbed with Mobius and their lack of service recently, but I would really like to transition to a service platform that does not take away as much staff time and not require an entire revision of the entire computer system and how our patrons have learned to access and use the library. We are supposed to be user-friendly, and I think that's a big concern for me.
And one of the other things I'd like to know about the other systems is, one of the conversations we've had is that right now we're a little fish in a big pond. In terms of Mobius, with Evergreen, we would be the big fish in a little pond. Maybe not the best example, but where do we stand in all of these other ones? Because I know that there are some, we may not use Mobius to the extent that we could, but I also don't know if going down to the size of Evergreen is going to limit some of the usage from the library. So I'd like to know where we fall in terms of the size of libraries using the other systems as well.
I think that's a good point. Do we have the ability to sort of run a usage report of if the current system has, I don't know the numbers, 1 million available titles, are we using 1% of that in our access?
We're using 0% right now. Although we're still borrowing from some of those libraries. I don't know that I can get that specific of a usage report, especially because the software that, because I don't want to get too in the weeds with the actual software, but the disruption for Mobius has come because they've moved to a new, like brand new, like in development product, and it's not down because it doesn't work right, it's down because it's not finished. It has just taken longer. Like it's working in some libraries are up and functional, but it's not working for us yet. Because they left the old software where a lot of that data resides, I'm not sure what I can get at. We have records ourselves of titles, but I don't know if I could get like a statistic exactly for you on that, as far as like what's the unique titles we've borrowed, et cetera. So I do think like Missouri Evergreen is a viable platform for libraries even of our size. The question for me is like, what problem is it trying to solve, and what kind of disruption is that going to bring to both staff and the public it would be a major migration. So I would want to I would rather explore other options for resource sharing, which is that Mobius piece, before changing our whole underlying library services platform, integrated library software, in order to make sure we have what we need for the community.
And I think I would like to get into more on that. What is the compatibility issue with our software? So Janice, I don't know if it's from your experience working with those other systems, when you say that there's a lot of compatibility issues with our system and Evergreen, like what help explain that to us?
So our software that we use, the public catalog is called CoolCat, but the back end of that, the staff side of the software, is called Sierra. So Sierra is what we call our ILS. It's enterprise software that runs, it's inventory, it's where the bibliographic records are stored, where the patron records are stored. There's reporting and analytics functionality. There are lots of elements of that, acquisitions elements. So that sort of runs everything that we do. That is separate from the Mobius software, which is just for resource sharing. That links us to other libraries outside of Christian County in order to borrow materials, and it's called unmediated resource sharing. So that means a patron can initiate a request without having to ask staff to borrow that item. So with Mobius, if I want to borrow Harry Potter from somewhere else besides Christian County, I can put in that request and it goes automatically to that other library without Christian County Library staff even knowing that it happened. We know when Harry Potter arrives at Christian County Library, and then we send it to whatever branch it's requested. So that's what the unmediated resource sharing is. With Missouri Evergreen, and Missouri Evergreen is the membership organization. The software is Evergreen, and it's hosted and serviced by a company called Equinox. That is both an ILS like Sierra and resource sharing like Mobius. It does both things. So you cannot be a member of Missouri Evergreen without moving to that Evergreen software for your main ILS. So we can't stay on Sierra and just use the borrowing resources of Missouri Evergreen. Does that make sense?
It does. And so why would we stay on Sierra if we've moved to Evergreen?
We wouldn't.
So
Like it would be one of the other.
compatibility issue?
So we can't, Missouri Evergreen isn't compatible with Sierra, I think is the
But we don't need Sierra if we move to Evergreen.
correct.
So
But
Sorry.
Sierra, okay.
sorry if
Sierra,
I'm missing it. It's been a day.
no, it's just Sierra is the system that is in the computer system
Yep.
now that is being used.
Yep.
To remove it and reinstate an entirely different system
Yep.
is very costly and time consuming. Training the staff and the public, it's approximately a 1 to 2 year process to complete that transition, which takes resources, money, and time, possibly being less cost effective than finding another program that Sierra would be compatible with, but would direct us to a different resource space.
So there's other programs that are Sierra compatible.
Yes, like the OCLC one I talked
Okay,
about.
thank you, sorry.
So
No, it's okay.
my goal is just time management, financial management, realizing Mobius has really let us down. Evergreen is a viable option, but it comes with consequences that possibly we could merge all of our concerns by finding something that was
Sierra
compatible
compliant.
with our established system.
Yep, I'm there, thank you.
Any other questions for Renee? No? Okay. Are there any motions on the table?
Do I need to move to ask Renee to bring us information of compatible sources, or do we just allow Renee to move this discussion to be continued with Renee bringing us more information of compatible sources?
I think because I'm gonna be looking into this with kind of an alternative to Mobius anyways, I can just update you as I go, and then at any point, if you want me to go a different direction, then we can have that conversation, unless you need something else.
Is a motion needed for that?
If she's already doing.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I look forward, I think we all look forward to more information.
Yeah, thank you for all that, that's a lot. Okay, labeling library materials.
So I provided, what you asked for, last month. Sorry.
Cereal.
And kind of talked about our current practice, so I'll just kind of hit the highlights here. We do already use spine labels to determine location and, as finding aids. Includes call numbers, genres, and those are based upon publisher categorization. So, like the Christian fiction particularly, that is something, those materials come to us with that designation on it through the vendors and the books themselves typically. New labels for new materials for a short period of time, and then specific format labels like large print and graphic novels. And then we label Missouri Book Awards and Caldecott Awards with those specific award spine labels. So then outside of that, finding aids are digital with the catalog, library databases like Novelist, Book Connections, outside websites and staff assistance. So just some kind of points about using subject headings, which is what Diana had brought up as a possibility. Like those are assigned in the cataloging process to describe the general subjects of materials. And then I kind of put some highlights, like I think it mirrors the range of things we've heard here, like using subject heading specifically to determine a label can be helpful in avoiding personal opinion because it's a fairly objective way, but it's still a departure from our current practices with other labels. It's treating a particular topic or set of topics differently than other topics. The subject headings themselves don't indicate a particular viewpoint, so a pro or a con. So it might be helpful to use as a trigger to label something in trying to avoid bias or discrimination, but it may not be that helpful as a finding aid because someone wouldn't necessarily know, like this has topics of whatever, but not necessarily knowing from the label what the perspective is. And then those subject headings are broad and generic, so it doesn't indicate specific actions or terminology, so it doesn't necessarily tell like how much sexual content is in the book. So there are limits to how it would be helpful or not. I've given you a list of the Library of Congress subject headings that we could find that are related to LGBTQ topics, as you asked. If we used all of those, if we used all of these to label materials, there would be about 430 titles at this moment in time, knowing that our collection is a growing thing. It grows, we remove and we add things. About 90 of those are in the children's section and the remainder are in the teen section. And then I've also provided sticker options from library suppliers, since you asked for those. Allison, you had asked specifically about the titles that were requested to be considered. All of the titles that we have retained in the children or teen sections have these subject headings except for the Big Back House and 13 Reasons Why, so that's the majority, all but 2 of the titles. So I hope that answers the questions you had from the last meeting, and just let me know what other questions you have.
Renee, I do have a question. Somebody pointed this out to me earlier. When you look up whatever title in the catalog, it shows the Library of Congress headings that apply to it, but then there are also tags on it. Where do the tags come from?
So this will get a little in the weeds with library software. We have a kind of an add-on software to Sierra, which shows up in the public catalog that is called Syndetics. It comes from a company called ProQuest. And it pulls from another external database, like kind of matches this title with that database and brings in content from that database. That is, so it will give tags. It could give like similar, like books like this or authors like this. It'll give sometimes the summaries of the books. It will give, like if it's in a series, it may give the rest of the titles in the series, so you can find those differently. So just a bunch of other metadata about those materials that's helpful in seeing the whole picture and seeing more about that book, or as a way to find other things that you might be interested in.
Can you provide us a list of all the tag topics?
I don't
from that? Is that
I don't know if I
something you
can, because so it's not the Library of Congress subject headings are controlled vocabulary, so it's a finite set. I mean, it's a long set, but it's kind of a finite set of phrases and words that are used, whereas the tags are more common language, natural language tags that I think that database vendor adds, like as language changes and adds as new topics come up, or add as just like here are words that people may use to search for these things.
Right.
I mean, I can look, but my guess would be it's like enormous and changes every day, whereas the Library of Congress subject headings are much more controlled.
Okay. Yeah, I would be, if you could find those, I would be curious to see them.
I don't want to take us backwards, but now I have a question. So if the tags come into the Sierra software, and if we choose to go away from the Sierra software, is this program compatible with other softwares?
I think Evergreen uses Syndetics.
Okay.
It's a pretty
So it's a
common,
pretty plug
and
and play.
if not Syndetics, there are other products that are
So
similar on
that's
the
obviously a
marketplace.
consideration of our systems is
Yeah,
can
yes.
they work with these other databases, or if not, is there other solutions like ProQuest, but that could integrate, or that sort of
Yeah, I think there's probably something for just about any software.
Do you have anything else? Okay. So we want to come back to this again next month with the information for Diana?
Okay, if I can't find that, is there something else you?
Guess if you can't find it, just let us know.
Okay.
Okay. All right, moving on. New business, bylaws revision. We had discussed changing some of the bylaws, I believe, Echo or John, one of these came from you, so I'm going to kind of defer in the direction that they came from.
Yeah, I can start us off. I don't know who the first attachment's from. I will take ownership of the second attachment that has my name on it.
Sorry, the first is kind of Tori's
Tori, thank you.
It's just from
summary
the,
and some notes from
just a
statutes.
clean, since there was more than one suggestion, that way you can.
Thank you. Good
Yep.
job. Tori gets the gold star.
And can I just say, like, the process for bylaw amendments, and we've talked about it, is we kind of have to talk through them and settle on, here's what you guys want to change the bylaws to, and then vote on them the next month. So, the goal would be to come up with sort of a final amalgamation of everything, and then Tori can kind of read through that in its entirety, so it's properly noticed to the public, and then until next month, if that's the route you wanna go.
Okay, thank you.
So we can maybe start with the suggested edits, and then I feel like maybe incorporate what Tori and looks like Harry might have provided, if that makes sense, or if there's another way that would be easier to go through this. I offered mine as a red line suggestion, so you could see what was previously there and then what was proposed as a potential change. Certainly open to feedback. Don't pretend that this will be our final draft, but wanted it as a starting point to our recent challenges with our bylaws, so that we ensure that we don't have those happening again. So appreciate your feedback and thoughts, and open to revisions of my first draft.
So we need to go one at a time, so this is just
Yes,
the
so
first one.
I would say
Section
that we
one.
should start with section 1.
Yeah.
And again, these are all for clarity in relation to our bylaws. Article 2 of our trustee bylaws under elections and appointments. So there are 4 sections that I had proposed potential changes in. And we can start with section 1. So would it be helpful if I read it, or do you all want to read it on your own? It's on the board.
I'm just gonna ask, just so that for, it's, to be fair to the public, since you guys need to know what this is saying, does anybody need us to read it out loud because you can't see it clearly, or?
Microscopic way in the back.
Okay, I just wanted to.
And we can read it out loud at the end.
At the end, okay.
It's up to you.
Okay, my only change would say, in the event of a vacancy in any elected office, an election for that office may be held at any regular or special meeting, just to be clear that, I think moving the election to July does make sense. It is when new trustees are appointed, and so it would just be a clean start for everybody. But in the event of a vacancy in any elected office, an election for that office may be held at any regular or special meeting.
For that office and
Resulting
resulting
vacancies.
lower
Yeah.
resulting vacancy for that office.
I would propose something a little bit different.
Okay.
I had kind of written this up before the meeting. This would be my suggestion for Article 2, Section 1. Officers of the Christian County Library's Board of Trustees may be elected at any regular or special meeting. Such officers shall be president, VP, secretary, and treasurer. So if we want to have an election, we can have it at any time, so long as the meeting is properly noticed.
My only concern about that is if you end up with a lot of discord over and over again, you don't want someone bringing up an election every 3 months, every 4 months.
Well, you have to have a majority.
Sure, and you
to
could
pass it.
have a majority to pass that election. I think that elections once a year, especially because of the things like the Missouri Ethics Committee, that the forms have to be signed for that, and the changing of the names on the bank account, it just keeps things a little bit easier for the library staff and for those that have to sign all of the forms. If we have a set date for when the larger election would happen, and then an opportunity to have a vacancy election should that arise.
I disagree. I think that things happen, people want to switch roles. We need to be able to move around our personal situations, life events. and-
Sure, then a person can resign and then we
and a
fill that
vacancy,
position.
But we need to be able to do that at any time of the year, and this proposal does that.
A person can, but if a person resigns, then what Echo is is putting out also does that, because that then leaves a vacancy. So,
She's specifying July. This specifies at any regular or special meeting.
right, no, but Echoes also says in the event of a vacancy. So if you feel like you can no longer carry out the duties of your position and you need to resign, you want to remain a member of the board but not hold an office position, then we can then hold an election to fill that office or position based off of what's written right here, that what Echo wrote.
I'm okay with it, with an annual review, but I don't think we want to run into the situation we did just recently. So I think we need to have the freedom as a board to elect or remove someone internally at any time during a regular meeting or special meeting. I think we need to be able to do that.
I would think that would cause an awful lot of instability. I've never heard of that case in any organization I've worked with. Usually a board of electors are, it's supposed to be a stable, unifying matter, serving the purpose of whatever organization or institution, business they are serving. I would be concerned with the instability of just throwing that up in the air at any time possible. I absolutely agree with the July meeting. That is when new electors or new board members are added, when times of service are ended. But I mean, if there was a domino effect of the 4 people, well, I just think we should address the person who has to have a vacancy, that their position and the resulting vacancy be filled. I would just think that would add greater stability for the organization and for, as we are acting as a unit, as the boss of the executive director, currently Renee, to have the discord or the continued confusion of who's in what position, and again, the banking, signing for the bank checks, that things don't just happen automatically. Everything would have a delay and a domino effect. I think that would just be unsettling for the library system as a whole. I think the once a year and adds to the stability of the organization.
Like the stability we have now, is that?
John, I understand that we have a question at the moment that we are looking for an answer. And that will need to be addressed as we address the bylaws. I think this is a good statement to help assure a greater stability and to eliminate situations such as we have just had confusion on.
I'm not that concerned about the stability because typically the composition of the board only turns over once a year. So I don't think I do not envision the board getting upset and saying, okay, we have to have an election every 3 months. I don't think that's gonna happen because, again, the composition of the board turns over in July. That's when, after that, a new member, old member goes off, a new member comes on. I think that would be when we'd be most likely to have an election. And then the only other time would be, again, if somebody has a family issue and they can't fulfill the duty of whatever office or position they're in. So
That's exactly what Echoes said, though.
To me, that's what her section
exactly what her says.
states.
Right, but I
We
think-
do
I
it
think
in July, and then for any office and any resulting vacancies, we have an election, or we can have it during a regular or special meeting. So, I mean, I feel like we're saying the same thing, just in 2 different ways. And this just allows for us to know, to guarantee that there is an election every July. That makes sure, because otherwise, the way you say it, you could skip over July. You don't have to have one in July.
I think I'm okay with having an annual review, but I think if we wanna make a change midstream, we ought to be able to do that.
Agreed.
I'm with Janice in that it does cause instability for the executive director and for the staff. So, as it stands, we need to figure out a way to,
Can we make a motion and vote on this?
Do you wanna do them one at a time, maybe, to?
Yeah,
Each
so
section
section one.
Okay.
Okay, we would have to,
Call the
okay,
question.
so there's a couple things. So it has to be in writing at this meeting. So if it's not in writing, we have to kind of dictate it very clearly. Yeah, but, so if you can read that, and we have the video to help me too, so I can listen. If I could just clarify, when you're saying any special meeting, you're not including closed special meetings? This is
Any-
something you would do in front of the public?
Yeah, any special, like. we can
Any
put
open special
any-
meeting?
Any regular, any.
Or any open?
Any open, regular, or special meeting.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
you want me to just read it?
That would be great,
Okay,
and yeah.
I will make a motion to adopt this revision to Article 2, Section 1. Officers of the Christian County Library's Board of Trustees may be elected at any open, regular, or special meeting, period. Such officers shall be president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this?
I do not agree. I feel it could possibly result in chaos. And offer, people, I don't understand why we can't have an election once a year and work together as a board for the common good of the library, why there would need to be a change in the assumed roles. I don't foresee why there would need to be a change more than once a year in the roles if we're working together as a 5-person unit for the board, for the good of the library. I just feel that it offers too much instability.
You said you would be open to adding an annual,
Yeah, if somebody wants to suggest some language to that effect.
To what effect? I'm sorry, annual review?
annual review?
Annual review in July, I guess.
Diana will have to add it in there if she,
Yeah,
and then reread it.
So let me think about. Well, how about this? I'm kind of doing this on the fly. How about try this? Officers of the Christian County Library's Board of Trustees shall be elected at least once a year at the July meeting, but may be elected at any open, regular, or special meeting. Such officers shall be president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And I don't have, let me write that down.
I'm
again,
just
so
gonna
I
have to use the video, but if
She's
you can
gonna
write
rewrite
down,
it
that'd be
also.
great, yes.
Okay.
Is there a second to the amended motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, trustee Alexander?
Aye.
Trustee Brazil?
Aye.
Trustee Garrity?
Aye.
Trustee Hagan?
Nay.
This will be voted on officially at the next board meeting. Moving on to section 6.
So this proposed change, since we're in this section of our bylaws, is a correction for what I believe our bylaws have been out of date for some time. When I was elected treasurer in July of 2023, I inquired about how to go about obtaining my corporate surety bond and was informed at that time that no, we have a fidelity bond. I won't pretend to have the intricacies of the difference of those two things, but in writing to me, I was told that we have a fidelity bond. So I would like to ensure accuracy of our bonding, as I take that very seriously as our treasurer, and therefore need it to be accurate to what it is that we're bonding.
I did check with Harry on this, and so the statute says corporate surety, so I think that was the language that was adopted. He said there's no substantial difference between a fidelity bond and a corporate surety. A fidelity bond is a type of corporate surety, so I think we could have other types of corporate sureties. So it is, I don't know if it makes a difference for this, so that's up to you guys. I think it just has mirrored the statutory language, so that is up to you guys.
So it doesn't change anything, it's just a more specific language?
I think so.
Okay. Would you like to, anybody, would you like to make a motion on the rewording?
Let me reference that.
This is the statute here in that first document, if anybody wants to see, just, I mean, I'm not making a comment on what to do, but
So what's the language?
it's in the page before that yellow, it says shall enter into a bond or bonds with, so our understanding was a corporate surety is the entity doing the bonding, if that makes sense. Fidelity bond is the type of bond.
Are there any other questions while Echo's looking?
Okay,
Okay.
so Perfect cue.
Yeah, no problem.
So as of September 25th, 2023, I was informed that, I'm just gonna read the whole thing. So we found the right policy regarding bonds for the board, and I learned something in the process. We pay for a fidelity bond from a separate company from our insurance. The liability insurance covers things like injury, whereas the bond covers financial misconduct. Mary is getting a copy of the actual language verifying it is for the position as opposed to the individual to make sure it doesn't need to be updated so the language of the bylaws is correct and we're in compliance with it. So I guess maybe we just need clarity around the language of what's in our insurance, but if we feel comfortable with Harry's guidance that the corporate surety is the right language, then I'm fine to not make a revision.
He seemed fine with it either way, so if there's no, maybe not changing it is up to you.
Okay.
How about I will make a motion to retract my proposed potential revision.
I can just underneath it say,
Scratch that
yeah,
one.
just
Yeah,
say,
scratch it.
yeah,
Okay.
Love it. So I was
just
second
no
to
action
that.
taken or something.
Do we need a second to that motion or no?
I don't think so.
Okay, because
No,
we're just not.
because there's
okay.
no action taken, basically.
Okay, thank you for clarity. Section 7. This discusses the appointment process for the library board of trustees. I think this just kind of, if I'm reading this correctly, Echo, it updates the role that the commission has taken in appointing trustees.
Yeah, again, so I think our current bylaws have been out of date for 2 years, or a year, I think, last spring of 23. And so they've not been monitored closely and therefore are out of date. So we do not follow this process currently in our bylaws. So I'd like to make sure we're up to compliance on what process we are following. To your point, that is now with the commissioners. So I'm not married to the language if I've maybe worded it incorrectly, but it is no longer recommendations from this board. It is now a process following the statutes, and I know we've got more detail in that for how the county commissioner statutes are being followed.
I think the following the commission process, like that is up until last year was what they decided. Like I think that makes sense because if they say, okay, then go back to making recommendations, that fits here too. Having the specifics about the website and phone number are probably not ideal for the bylaws since those could change and that's not the type of information we typically have in the bylaws. We can just reference, if that does change, we can just reference their website in our processes later.
Any questions about the revisions that Echo worded on section 7? Is there a motion?
So if you're taking out the website and the phone number, are you taking out the qualified citizen should contact the website and just stopping with the Missouri statute, or is that in there too? Which part do you, what do you want?
It seems like the URL is maybe overkill, but I think as of now, if I'm not mistaken, the process will be that qualified citizens interested in serving should review the Christian County Commissioner website or contact their office for details,
Yep.
regardless of, to your point, if the website changed or something, but if that is the current process.
Okay,
think
I
that, yeah,
just
we'll
wanted clarity
yeah.
on what you were taking out.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to accept this as this section 7 as written here.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any more questions, discussion on this? All right, trustee Alexander?
Aye.
Trustee Brazil?
Aye.
Trustee Garrity?
Aye.
Trustee Hagan?
Aye.
All right, I think that's our last one. Section 9. Knowing that our trustees are currently staggered serving on those 4-year terms, I don't know if we need to have the trustees fill a remainder of a term, or if a trustee were to resign, if it is appropriate for the replacement to begin their 4-year term.
That is actually defined in the statute, so we have to do just the filling of the remainder of the term.
So what is the term defined as in our bylaws?
Is it the 4 years?
It's the 4 years, it's defined in the statute as.
So right on that page before where I put that note, that yellow part that's up here now, so the statute says that if they leave midterm, the new person only does the remainder of the term and then. Because
And
otherwise
that's to
you'd get,
ensure the staggering.
yeah, you
in
would get off of
perpetuity.
the stagger and then you'd be replacing. If that makes sense.
Maybe we just leave section 9 as
Yep,
is.
sounds like it.
Okay,
Okay.
so it sounds like we have 2, if I'm not mistaken, section 1 and section 7 that will be voted on at the next meeting.
Do you have the clear language for it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. With,
I think
and
that
if
she's
Diana
working
gives
on
me
it
her
right
written,
now.
that would be
I
great,
got it
yeah.
written down.
Okay.
And then we have the video too, so that's been very helpful for me to go back and listen when I miss things or double check myself.
Okay. Okay. So 2025 important dates.
So there are 2 things here. The first is the holidays that the library will be closed to the public. So this is our typical course this time of year. These are the same holidays that we've been closed for the last, I think, 3 years. So
I actually have a question on that one.
Yes.
Where's Columbus Day?
it is October 13th. We do close to the public that day, but we use it as a staff training day.
Okay. So should we redesignate it just Columbus Day? Was that on the prior years? Because I remember Columbus Day wasn't on there last year either.
Yeah, this has been the same for,
Okay.
before my time.
Okay.
So it's just always listed because we're close to the public, even though we're not, it's not a holiday for
Okay,
staff.
I don't go to court on Columbus Day, but I work, so.
Yeah. Yeah, same. I don't go to court either, ideally.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the, holidays the library will be closed for 2025?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion, any more questions on this, on these dates? Right, trustee Alexander?
Aye.
Trustee Brazil?
Aye.
Trustee Garrity?
Aye.
Trustee Hagan?
Aye.
Alright.
And then the second is the regular Board of Trustees meetings, so these still follow the same pattern of the 4th Tuesday of the month, except a couple. So I did not include a January meeting. That is up to you whether you want to include it or not. This last year, we canceled the January meeting. There had initially been a threat of weather, which ended up not being a huge deal, but there wasn't a lot on the agenda. And what we found is that because of all the December holidays and staff vacations and everything, it was actually really helpful, I think, for staff and board to not have that meeting. So it's up to you whether you want to schedule it. If we don't schedule it but end up needing it, you can call a special meeting. So that's just my reasoning behind not putting it on there. The year before, actually in 2022, we actually had to move the January meeting twice because of weather. So I feel like January is just that month for weather-related stuff, so that's a factor too. The other differences are asterisked. November and December are both a week early because of holidays. So otherwise it still sits with the 4th Tuesday of the month pattern. And these are all scheduled for the Nixa branch right now. I think this is the best room for the capacity that we have at this point. In past years, we had looked at trying to move it around the branches to let you guys all visit those branches and stuff, but it just makes the most sense for the crowds we have right now.
Is this the biggest room in this library?
Um,
I don't know if it's bigger than the one where the book
Oh,
fair was.
it's not the biggest, but it's the only like publicly designated that has easy access, and that has only one entrance to it also. So getting in and out, you know, with a large crowd is probably not as safe.
For fire regulations.
Yeah, I don't know what the fire code actually is in that room because it's not public.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, on here, we've got trustee officer elections in December. Should we move that to
Oh,
July?
Good point.
Yes.
Or just take it out, or
That's a good
Well,
point.
couldn't we table this until
till
we-
after
after
do
we
the
vote
bylaws?
on the new
Yes.
bylaws?
Oh,
Yes.
okay, yeah, that's fine.
I mean, you can
Or
still
you could
vote on the
just-
dates. These are, the agenda items are sort of like just reminders of what we do,
So that's
so
not really set in.
it's not, yeah,
It's not set in stone.
I can just make a note to move that up to July.
whatever the bylaws get changed.
Or,
Okay.
So if you wanna go ahead and vote, and we'll just make that change.
Is there a motion to accept the board meeting dates for 2025?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Okay. Trustee Alexander?
Aye.
Trustee Brazil?
Aye.
Trustee Garrity?
Aye.
Trustee Hagan?
Aye.
All right, review of CCL council.
That was my item. I move that we table that indefinitely. This will be decided elsewhere, so we don't need to talk about it here.
Okay. It was your item, so I don't think we have
So-
to make a motion to even.
We could just strike it, right?
if no one else
There's-
wants to move forward on them.
If there's no motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.